get to work in a unique place today. Big old terminal. Got 3 different jobs here, 1 excavator, 2 skid steers. So let's work on a track skid steer and figure out why it's making a grinding sound coming from the right rear. Well, first project is going to be this little Cat 259D. They're having a noise coming out of this planetary set. You got your hydraulic wheel motor on here with your sprocket. And on bulldozers, they call them segments because they're in pieces. You can actually just replace one piece at a time. But I'm going to go ahead and take this track off and listen to it to make sure it's coming out of the inside this. It's really not that big of a deal to get into here. You just take the snap ring out, pull that plate off, and then do your planetaries or everything. Now, the owner came by, he told me they had a guy pull that little planetary set out and do some work to it, but it just never quite sounded right after that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tore down and we'll give it a listen. So to accomplish that, there's a seat switch. I have to put a bucket and a seat switch, these down, and use my impact to get it to go forward. Sometimes you just got to rig crap to work. So to take that track loose, we got to run this adjuster in, take that grease fitting out. Now I know some of you guys are making a comment that I don't have any jack stands on the front. This thing keeps constantly bleeding down. I have 4 sets of jack stands. I normally keep 4 jack stands on my truck, 2 sets. I've got 2 underneath the school bus, and I've got the other 6 or 5 sets or 4 sets or whatever in my storage. And I was just at my storage yesterday and was like, oh yeah, I need to put those 2 on my truck just in case I need to do some skid steer work or something else. And lo and behold, I didn't. You guys saw me spin that idler on the front, the little bogies on the bottom, and idler on the back, just to make sure there's no side-to-side play. And put your hands on it, put your hands on the track frame, and then feel pretty kind of gravelly, you know, feels like sand. If you feel that, then that means the bearing's bad. You got to pull them off. Those all feel good. I'm gonna start this back up, put it in forward, and we're going to listen to that now that the track's off of it, make sure that that's what's making the sound. So I can definitely hear some clunking sound coming there at a high rate of speed. And if you look, that seal down in there is wet, which makes me think that there's probably no fluid in this final drive. I'm going to take that plug out and see if we can see some fluid. And there's a helpful hint for you guys that are going to check fluid levels and final drives. A lot of times these plugs are either square or hex like Allen's, and you'll strip them out. But take you a hammer. I already loosened this one, like this one right here. If I stick a impact on there, it'll probably strip out. So take your hammer and just hit it. Just a couple of times, that'll break it loose, and then that plug will come out pretty easy. All right, so there is some fluid in it. All right, so I got the cap off. The cap was in there. We took that snap ring off. Now I took that planetary set out, the little axle out. Didn't see anything specifically, so I'm gonna start it up, put it in gear, and then listen in here and see what we got.
Unsafe.
That's right.
I am dangerous.
Well, I took the planetary out. All of the bearings are fine in it, and that's what my concern was. There was a little metal shavings in it, but there was a failure at one point. They might not have cleaned it out, the previous guys. I don't know. The only thing that I can tell is that the sun gear, or the little planetary gears, there's a lot of run out between them and the sun gear on the outside. And unfortunately, the sun gear comes in that entire hub on the outside, and Caterpillar doesn't sell just that piece, apparently. They sell the whole wheel motor for $4,000. So I called the customer, which happens to be a buddy of mine, told him, look, there's no catastrophic damage in this thing. Just to replace the planetaries and the bearings and everything is about 1,500 bucks. My suggestion, let's put it back together, put fluid in it, and just run it, send it down the road. Now I say that because we're probably looking at having to replace that sun gear because of the failure that happened before. It just kept running metal shavings through and wearing everything down. And to replace the entire assembly is gonna be $4 grand. And to do that as preventive maintenance now, it's like, well, you might get a lot of life out of it, and some of these run noisy for a long time anyway. So put it back together and we'll just check and advise later. He knows about the problem. He doesn't want to spend the $4,000 right now on the wheel motor, and I don't blame him. So put the track back on, get this one back in service, and then I need to go over and work on that one. So let me get the track back in service, and I'll show you guys how to tension that track real quick. So I wasn't able to film tightening that track tensioner. All you do is you put that grease fitting back in, use your grease gun. When your track is off the ground, that bottom bogey or idler, whatever you want to call it, you should have about 2 inches of clearance between the track and it. So adjust your track, spin it, go forward and reverse, and then check it again. And as long as it's tight within 2 inches, you don't want it touching, because if it's touching the bottom, it's way too tight. It'll actually stretch the cables in the track and then ruin the track. But really quick job. Put it back together, filled it up full of gear oil, and another one done. So if you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Short and sweet. Hope you liked it. Get out and fix it.